Hello everyone, this is Ryan and this is lesson 41 of Learning JavaScript. In this lesson we'll be learning about form validation. So in front of me I have a HTML file that links to a CSS document. I also link to a JavaScript document, and then I have a div tag where I can display an error message. I've called it error box, but you can call it whatever you want. Just an empty div tag. And then obviously we have our form, and the form goes to a specific action. In other words, when you press the submit button on the form, it will take us to a different page. Usually this page would be a .php file or ASPX or any kind of server-side scripting language. But in this case we're just going to go to a standard HTML file. I've created a submit.html file as well, just with a little thank you message to thank the user for the information. And then I've got three input boxes. I've got a place to enter your name, your telephone number, and your email address. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Name, telephone, email address. And I'm wanting the user to enter their telephone number as 3 digits dash 3 digits dash 4 digits. But obviously you need to determine this format before the time. Now we're going to press submit, and you'll see it takes us to our submit.html page, which is the thank you message we created. So let's go straight to the JavaScript now. And once the form has loaded, we're going to create a variable for our form. I'm going to just use the component array, seeing that there is only one form on the page. And then we're going to attach an event handler to this form, and the event handler we're going to use is onSubmit. So just like we learnt about onClick and onMouseDown and so on, onSubmit is specifically designed for a form, so that when you hit the submit button on the form, an onSubmit event is triggered. So just for testing purposes, I'm going to alert a test message, and I'm also going to return false. So return false you've seen before when we wanted to prevent the default behavior of a hyperlink. Normally when you click on a hyperlink it takes you to another page, but with JavaScript, if you return false on an on-click on a hyperlink, you can actually prevent the hyperlink from doing anything. So in the same way, by returning false on an onSubmit, we will prevent the form from submitting. So if I hit submit, it pops up the test message and it doesn't submit. You see, it didn't take me to the thank you page, just remained on this page. So that's what the return false does. And that's exactly what we're going to need to do if an error message occurs. We're going to have to return false. Okay, so step 1, let's create a error box variable. Now remember, the error box is our div tag where we're going to display the error message. So we'll say document.getElementById error box. And then I'm also going to create an error message variable, which will just be an empty string. And then we're going to start with our validation. So first step is to validate the name of a person. So I'll say valid name. I'm going to use a regular expression for this. Feel free to revise your regular expressions, the lesson on regular expressions, if this seems a little bit strange to you. And then we'll plug this into our search function. So we'll say if this, remember this is referring to the current object. The current object in this case, we attach the onSubmit event to the form, so therefore the form is the current object. So this will represent the form. So if this dot elements 0, remember that the name is element 0 and then the telephone is elements 1 and so on. So if the name dot value dot search valid name is, remember, a search function returns -1 if the pattern doesn't match. So in other words, if it's not a valid name, we're going to populate the error message variable and say enter a valid name. Okay. Then we need to do the same for the telephone number. What is a valid telephone number? Well, according to this particular exercise, 3 digits dash 3 digits dash 4 digits. So 3 digits dash 4 digits, sorry, 3 digits dash 4 digits. It must end with that, and it must begin with that, so that they can't put anything before or after it. And then if this dot elements 1 this time, dot value, valid tel. In other words, if it doesn't match, then we concatenate to our error message, enter a valid telephone number. Okay, and then lastly my email address. This one is a bit more tricky, but any word character, any full stop, any dash, at least one of them, plus a @ sign, and then any letter of the alphabet, or any digits, or any dash, or a full stop, at least one of them, followed by a compulsory full stop, and then lastly any letter of the alphabet between A to Z, between 2 to 8 of them. There are many ways of validating email address. This is just one way which I like to use. Case insensitive. If this dot elements 2, that's the email address, valid email is equal to -1. In other words, it's invalid. Concatenate to our error message variable, enter a valid email. And then finally, if the error message string variable has a value, we know that an error has occurred. So then if an error has occurred, what do? We need to display our error into our error box. That's our div tag. And return false to stop the form from submitting. Okay, a big test on the way. Okay, invalid name, invalid telephone, invalid email. So it doesn't look that nice, just plain text, so we can jazz it up a little bit with some CSS. So I've created a little class called error, given it a background of red and a border and so on. And so what I need to do is apply this error class to this div as soon as an error occurs. So with JavaScript, I'm going to say error box dot class name. That's how you add a class to an object or an HTML tag using JavaScript, and I'll set it equal to error. Okay, testing. Okay, it didn't like that, so let's just see what we did wrong. Oh, we spelled error box incorrectly. Let's refresh and submit. So there you can see it displays a red background, looks a little bit more like an error has occurred. But you can obviously make this look however you want, just with some CSS. So if I now enter a correct name, it doesn't complain about the name anymore. Enter a correct telephone number, no longer complains about the telephone number. That's still an invalid email address, but as soon as I make it valid, it allows me through to the last page. And so that is how to validate a form using JavaScript.